Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of That's Ruddy Mysterious, a podcast of short tales about true mysteries. What created the Potomsky Crater? Who was involved in the 1963 Great Train Robbery? I'm not going to solve those mysteries, but they'll be interesting to learn about. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. Transcripts and references for all episodes can be found at that'sruddymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about the Gray Man in the Carolinas. Ryan Fontaine, a resident of Pawleys Island, said of the Gray Man, "It's a story I heard growing up. I think everyone in the Low Country has heard the story, especially when hurricanes or tropical storms begin to form around our area. It's always something you hear people bring up. He's a friendly entity. Not that it's a good thing to see him, but when someone does claim to see him, it gives us locals an idea of what we're dealing with." Arnie Love fled Hurricane Hugo in 1989. He said, "My parents had gone down to Pawleys to board things up before Hugo. My best friend's husband stopped by on the way to Myrtle Beach for work. There was no car when he pulled up, but he saw my dad up on the lookout. Turns out Dad wasn't home. Who he thought was my dad, we now believe was the Gray Man. In the end, our house was spared." Other residents of the area have also seen the Gray Man, and their homes have also been spared. The legend of the Gray Man began in the early 1800s. He was first seen in 1822. The Gray Man of Hatteras, or Pawleys Island Gray Man, can be seen in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and Pawleys Island, South Carolina, before major storms. The Gray Man is an indistinct, shadowy figure who wears a cloak. Before major storms, he can be seen walking along the beaches. The Gray Man usually shows up with the first winds of major hurricanes. Although no one has ever heard him speak, he issues strong warnings about what is about to come with his very presence. If anyone goes near him, the Gray Man disappears. Those that do see the Gray Man are usually spared the brunt of the storms. The people who heed his warnings usually return to find their homes are okay while the homes of their neighbors have been destroyed. Over the past 200 years, 5 major hurricanes have hit Pawleys Island, and according to the stories, the Gray Man has appeared before each one. In 1954, a woman said she saw the Gray Man before Hurricane Hazel hit the area. She said that not only was her house spared, but the beach towels she'd left on her balcony were still there. Residents know that if they see the Gray Man, the storm is about to be strong. Cape Hatteras is very vulnerable to hurricanes. It lies on the edge of the Gulf Stream, which is a huge current of warm water cycling through the Atlantic Ocean. This is the path that many hurricanes follow through the Atlantic Ocean. Hurricane Florence hit in 2018. The Gray Man was seen on a live webcam feed of the storm. Some say the video has been faked, but the storm was definitely a strong one. On August 30th, the National Weather Service, or NWS, announced a potential tropical cyclone in the Atlantic Ocean. By the next day, Florence had developed into a tropical depression. By the next day, September 1st, the storm had developed into a tropical storm. At this time, it was named Florence. Wind speeds were close to 40 miles per hour. On September 4th, Florence had turned into a hurricane with high wind speeds up to 75 miles per hour. It had strengthened to a Category 2 hurricane by the end of the day, with wind speeds up to 100 miles per hour. On September 5th, the NWS announced that Hurricane Florence had become a major hurricane. During the night, the storm had strengthened and weakened between a Category 4 and a Category 3 hurricane. Wind speeds were reaching up to 130 miles per hour. On September 10th, the NWS announced that Florence had strengthened back into a major hurricane with wind speeds up to 140 miles per hour. On September 14th, Florence made landfall near Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, which is about 180 miles or around 290 kilometers from Cape Hatteras. Florence remained over North Carolina for 3 days, devastating the coastal communities of North Carolina. It is said that the people who heeded the Gray Man's warnings returned to homes that had survived the devastation. What is the Gray Man? There are some theories. Some believe that he is the ghost of a man who fell in love but then became the victim of a major storm that struck on September 27, 1822. The story is that he had been away from home for 2 years and was returning home when he took a shortcut and got stuck in quicksand. His fiancée then began wandering the beach and saw him wandering the beach as well, but as she got closer, he disappeared. Overcome with grief, her father decided they had to leave home and go inland. The next day, a major hurricane struck the area. Others say he is the ghost of a sailor from an island that was lost during a hurricane. He first appeared to warn his fiancée. The fiancé's family heeded the warning and went inland. The next day, a major hurricane hit and killed all of their neighbors. Still others say the Gray Man is not a ghost at all, but is instead just a force of nature. They say he's not a ghost, but more a spirit come to warn residents. Some believe that the Gray Man is the ghost of George Pawley, the original owner of Pawley's Island. He lived on the island in the early 1700s. There are even those that believe the Gray Man is the ghost of Blackbeard the pirate. There are others that believe the Gray Man was a Confederate soldier who had returned from war just in time to warn his family about an impending storm. Only a few days later did his family discover that the soldier had died on the battlefield. This theory doesn't match up to the timeline of the first sighting, however, since the United States Civil War occurred between the years 1861 and 1865, but the first sighting was in 1822. Some don't believe the Gray Man exists at all. Who or what do you think the Gray Man is? Why does he come to warn residents of impending storms? Is he real or just an example of survivor bias? What do you think? Thanks for listening to today's episode of That's Ruddy Mysterious. I'm your host, Kelly with an I. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a review and follow That's Ruddy Mysterious to be updated about new episodes. Tune in next Tuesday for another thought-provoking tale.